Now, this is the whole meat. So, top 4 LPs by overall Amazon. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Career School. So, I get so many questions around Amazon's leadership principle. And these questions are usually like, what are some of the most important leadership principles? Or what are some of the leadership principle questions I'll get for a specific role? I could really go on and talk about what I think would be the right choice or the Amazon leadership principle questions that you'll get for your interview. However, I had a better idea. So what I did was to go out and ask a bunch of Amazonians to fill out a survey that I created and tell me what the leadership principles that they think are most important to succeed in their role. I think I asked over like 1,000 people maybe and got around 104 answers from people. This is really exciting for me because I'll be able to share what people in Amazon who actually work here as product managers, program managers, marketers, to share their thoughts on what are the most important leadership principles. And this will probably be the questions that you'll get during your Amazon interview, right? So how it worked is I spent a couple weeks sending out this survey, and I went and asked, what are the top 4 leadership principles that you think is important to succeed in your role? And the reason I made it 4 is because usually when we have loop interview, which is the final interview, it's usually with 4 people or 4 interviewers, and usually they have their own leadership principles to ask you. Yeah, so in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sharing these data that I collected from Amazonians and go over the overall leadership principle people thought would be really important to succeed in Amazon as a whole. And 2, I'm going to break down into different orgs like retail, AWS, and more. Then number 3, I'll be breaking down these into different roles so that you will have a better understanding of what are some of the most important leadership principles for a specific org or specific role. I'll be using visualization, aka slide deck, to share this data with you, and hopefully this is helpful. So as I said, I'm going to be using this slide deck to show you the whole survey and the answers by the overall Amazon view and break down into different orgs as well as different roles. So yeah, the first part is the survey overview. I've sent out the survey to people for about 2 weeks time. I think I already said it, but I probably sent it out to more than 1,000 people, and I got 104 answers. Thank you, everyone. And the questions that I asked was 1, which Amazon org are you in? And then the second one was, what role do you work in? And then the third one is choose up to 4 Amazon leadership principles that are most important to succeed in your current role. Let's move into the actual data now. So yeah, if you look at the overall org, there were so many people, 36 people from the Amazon.com or retail side. And then the second largest group was the cloud or AWS by having 27 people. And then we had some people from devices, entertainment, HR, and physical stores, as well as some other, orgs. If you look at the third slide, we have people who are engineers, program managers, product managers, marketers, and data, and much more. And I'm going to be basically sharing all these stuff with you in the breakdown. So yeah, that was kind of the survey overview of who are the ones who actually participated in this whole survey. Now, this is the whole meat. So top 4 LPs by overall Amazon. And this is basically the aggregated version of the answers that I collected. And as you can see, there are a lot of answers for each of these leadership principles. So I'm going to highlight the ones that are top 4. First one was ownership by 67 votes from people. I think it's very, very, very relevant and important that you do actually have ownership, as I think that's kind of the baseline of where everything starts at Amazon. And no surprise, customer obsession was the second one. As you probably know, Amazon's mission is to be Earth's most customer-centric company. And I think this kind of represents why customer obsession is one of the most important leadership principles here. And deliver results was the top 3. I think I kind of mentioned it in my deliver result video. But at the end of the day, the reason we're here, the reason we're working at a company is mostly to deliver results on the work that you do. And then we have a tie for top 4. It was bias for action and dive deep. If I think about bias for action, speed matters in business, and we really care about making decisions fast and then also kind of, get going and executing. So that's no surprise for me. And then the other one was dive deep. Amazon's culture is based on data, and like we just love data. Every time we do something, it's always based on data. So I am not surprised that dive deep was the number 4 choice from people. And there are a lot of different ones, such as invent and simplify and learn and be curious, as one of the most important leadership principles at Amazon. And then the other part where I thought was interesting was that frugality, and then the 2 new leadership principles we added recently, was not really selected by anyone. I think that was a pretty interesting finding from this survey. Let's go into org. So if you look at retail, the first one that was ownership, 24 people. And then the second one was customer obsession. Like, I think we are seeing a trend here of like customer obsession and like ownership being like really, really important to succeed in any role at Amazon. However, I think it's much more important in retail because you kind of, have the customer facing job at retail. So like, I think that's why ownership and customer obsession was so important. And then we have a tie, invent and simplify and dive deep. The reason I think dive deep was selected was because obviously we care about data. And then if you think about the customers who come into Amazon and shop with us, it's just, a lot of people. And if you think about it, how we can improve customers' experience is by looking at those data, by diving deep. So that's a very, very important LP for not only the retail, but for overall Amazon. I think the other one was invent and simplify. This totally makes sense for retail specifically, or retail especially, I think, because like retail business has been there for ages. Or to put it in a different perspective, Amazon's retail business is one of the oldest Amazon business compared to, let's say, Go stores or, AWS or any of those new business types that we kind of, are doing right now. So it needs a lot of kind of structure and like kind of invent and simplify to make sure that, it's continuously improving. So I think that's why invent and simplify was selected here when it comes to retail. Yeah, so let's move on to the next one. AWS or cloud. Ownership, again, was one of the top leadership principles, as well as deliver results here. I'm not really sure because I never worked in AWS, but I thought this was really interesting because like I think there might be a difference in culture or like work style when it comes to like retail versus cloud or AWS. So I think that was why deliver result was kind of selected. And then the other 2 were customer obsession and learn and be curious. I think customer obsession is kind of, obvious. Learn and be curious, I think it's because it's a newer space in terms of like the business. And obviously the tech side, it's continuously evolving and continuously improving. So I think it's really important to kind of learn and be curious to make sure that you're catching up with every changes that are made in the business. Let's move on to the device org. Here, it was really interesting to see that deliver results was the number 1 choice. The second one, we had a tie. It was customer obsession and ownership. And then the other one was dive deep. I don't think I need to really explain about dive deep. It's just who we are. We use data all the time. So I think that's why. Yeah, so let's look at top 4 LPs by role. And this was the part where I was super excited about to share with y'all because, a lot of the folks who are interviewing with Amazon, they're probably looking at like all these leadership principle and like they're probably like wondering which leadership principle questions they'll get for their interview. So I thought this was super interesting. And let's start by going into engineering. The first leadership principle that came up was ownership. I think it's really important that you have ownership at Amazon, and that's why I think that was the first choice from engineers. Second was deliver results. This may be specifically for engineering, and sorry that I am not an engineer. I was never an engineer, but like I feel like you are coding or kind of building these new stuff with your skills. And I think it's really important that you do have ownership and then you kind of deliver results on time and all that. So I think that's why deliver results were chosen. this many times. And then we have a tie, but customer obsession and learn and be curious was another one. I mentioned it before, but I think it's really important that you do have that learn and be curious part because, things are continuously moving. It's continuously evolving. So it's important that you have that learn and be curious LP in you to make sure that you're someone with a growth mindset. Let's go into program managers. The first one was, interestingly, this one was ownership by far. And program managers are the one who really need to get things going and make sure that we are aligned with the schedule and everything. So maybe that's why ownership was number one. And then the second one was bias for action. And I think this was really interesting because in my mind, I thought program managers more so around the ones who's kind of carrying everyone forward. And maybe that's why bias for action is important for program manager positions. And the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever you call it, was customer obsession, invent and simplify, dive deep, and deliver results. I don't think I really need to explain about customer obsession, dive deep, or deliver results. But I thought invent and simplify was really interesting. Because usually what program managers, they are looking at how we can actually make things better, continuously improve things. And I think that's why invent and simplify is so much important for program managers, because you need to really, have structure and you kind of make sure that everything is going into the right direction. So invent and simplify is the one that I thought was super interesting on this one and very essential for program managers. And now product manager. As you can see, the first one was customer obsession. Product managers are the one who are building new products and stuff. So it makes sense that having a customer obsession or customer-centric lens when it comes to building these new stuff. So I think that's why customer obsession was number one. 2 was bias for action. I think it was more so around people need to, or product managers need to kind of, roll up their sleeves and kind of do it whenever, things come up. So I think that's why bias for action was number 2. Third one was ownership. I think this one is across the board very important as an Amazonian. And then the fourth one was invent and simplify. I was surprised actually to see this one as the number 4 LP. But I guess I think it's really important that you do have that invent and simplify lens when it comes to, building new products and also continuously improving them. Marketing. Yeah. So the first one was customer obsession by far. And then the second one was ownership. Third one was think big. Yeah, so think big was the one that kind of caught my eye here. You don't really see this LP in any of the different roles. And marketing is obviously the ones who need to think out of the box to a problem. So it was really interesting to see think big here. And learn and be curious. Obviously, you got to have that, growth mindset to make sure that you're serving your customers right. Yeah, and then the other one was data roles. Data roles meaning BIEs, business intelligence engineers, data analysts, and all that roles are included in this section. I know I don't have a ton of answers or a ton of data points, but if you look at it, first one was customer obsession and invent and simplify. I think these two ones are kind of coming across the board, so no surprise there. And then we have a bunch of tie, but ownership, learn and be curious, dive deep, obviously, and deliver results were them. Yeah, so dive deep and deliver results. I mean, dive deep, honestly, it's pretty obvious because you're the people who are looking at data and working with the data to come up with an insight. So dive deep, pretty much obvious there. Yeah, that was it for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If this was helpful, please subscribe to my channel and also like this video. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on my next content.